I'm Tanja, and today's video is going to be a bit different from all the other videos I've done so far. Today I'm going to share some tips on how you can get a job abroad. Many of you may not actually know, but I've been an expat for about 17 years on and off, and to date I've lived in about 4 countries, and I've also worked in different sectors. So the tips I'm going to share with you today would be for persons who are interested in working abroad and who want to experience that expat life. Now let me start by saying that there is a difference between being an expat and being an immigrant. So what I'm going to share today is specifically for expat persons. And the definition of an expat is a person who moves to a particular country for the sole purpose of working. So that does not take into account persons who migrate to a particular country for a better life or for whatever reason, and then they decide to look for a job. This is specifically for people who leave their country of living, whether it's the country they were born in, and go to a particular country specifically to do a specific job. So the first tip that I'm going to share I think is the most important one of them all, and that is to have a skill set that is needed. It doesn't mean that you can only be a professional, as in a doctor, a lawyer, or those type of career paths. It can also mean that you have a trade, so you could also be a tradesman, a plumber, or even a spa therapist. But when I say to have a specific trade meaning, now the sole reason of why countries or companies would look outside of their environment to have persons to come in to actually perform certain types of jobs is because there's no one there who has the expertise. And the only way that you are going to be able to secure a work permit is by proving to the authorities that the skill that you have is a skill that is needed in the particular country, and there are no more persons who have that skill, or there are no persons who are currently available from that specific country who has that skill. Now, if you go to a country where you are, let's say, a secretary, that is a profession that there are lots of persons who can either train easily or persons who are already doing that particular job. And there are also some professions which are considered to be closed market, and that is that the country will decide for specific types of jobs we are not letting any expat workers or foreigners take those jobs will be specifically for the citizens. So in order for you to be able to migrate and pick up a job in another country abroad or live that life as an expat, it means you must have a specific skill that is needed. So some of the skills that are always needed, or some of the skills that over the years I've seen persons move from different countries. You can start with the professional ones, whether you have accountants or doctors, persons in the medical field, and that's a very wide area. So that covers doctors, nurses, technicians, as long as you have a specific skill that is really needed. You also have teachers. There are a lot of persons who, while they are traveling, will go and train to teach English as a foreign language. And there are many persons who have been able to travel the world teaching English as a foreign language. And that's always one that's available as well. It also doesn't have to be English, because if your first language is not English, and let's say your first language is Spanish or French, then you can also use that as an opportunity to live abroad and teach while you are in another country. There are also tradesmen jobs available. There's your plumbers, your HVAC technicians, your engineers. Those type of professions are also professions that you will find availability. You also have jobs like boat crews. That's another skill that is always needed. And then the jobs also trickle down to areas like, say, spa workers. I've seen quite a few spa workers who've moved territories. There are also some persons who are working on cruise liners. So when you look for a skill, don't necessarily think that it's only certain types of skills, but there are lots of skills out there that you can actually pursue, or if you are already in that field. What I will say is that you want to make certain that you are one of the best in your field. So it doesn't matter which field it is. If it's a field that is needed, you will be able to secure a job in it, but you want to make certain that you are good at it. because you're not only competing against individuals in your own country now, you are now competing against the whole world. So if there is a job, let's say in Dubai, you're not only going to be competing from the Caribbean or whatever country you are coming from, persons across the world will be competing for that same job. So you want to make certain that you are actually very good at whatever it is that you choose. The second tip that I will share is to find a recruiter. In 2024, you just can't go on the internet, see jobs, and just fire off your CV. You will find yourself just sending CVs and endless, 100, 200, 300 with little to no responses or not favorable, and it can actually be very frustrating. Now, when we're talking about jobs abroad and we're talking about living that expat life, for a lot of these jobs, there are actually recruiters who do this on a daily basis. Now, in today's recruiting, you don't actually pay the recruiter, the company will pay them, so it's actually a free service for you. And there are recruiters in all the fields. So what you will want to be doing is to be looking for a recruiter in the field. There are recruiters for hospitality, as in hotel workers. There are recruiters for spa workers. There are recruiters for cruise liners. There are recruiters who specialize in IT tech type scenarios. So what you would want to do is to make certain that you are on the lookout or that you are researching how to find a recruiter for your particular field. You can also look at the option of finding a recruiter in that particular country, but I feel that you will have a lot more success if you look for a recruiter in your particular field. And by doing that, especially if you don't have your heart set on a particular country, then you're able to see what options there are out there. So you may have a recruiter who's recruiting for, let's say, construction workers. But that recruiter may also work with about 3 or 4 companies in 5 different countries. So by doing that, you're giving yourself more options of different places that you can be, as opposed to just saying, oh, I want to work in XYZ country. How do you find those recruiters? I would suggest you start with the internet. Of course, there's always LinkedIn, and there are many websites out there that will help you to connect to where those recruiters are. And remember, recruiters get paid by placing persons in those jobs. So they are out there and they are actively looking for persons. Which leads me on to tip number 3. And tip number 3 is a very important one. And it is that you should make certain that you have a digital footprint. That is, when someone sees your name pop up, as in you are looking for a job, they should be able to go to Google and Google you. And they should be able to see exactly who you are, what you're about, the type of work that you do, and what your interests are. They should also be able to see a little bit more than just the work that you do. You want to be able to create a personality behind just the name and the CV. I will also say that this is also an opportunity for you to make certain that there's not anything on the internet that you don't want your recruiter to find, or that you don't want your potential new employer to find. So it's very important that you make certain that you know what your digital footprint looks like. Google your name, see what comes up, see if there's information there that's not true, see if it's not relevant. Like, for example, you've not updated your new job and where you are on, on whether it's on Facebook that you are on, or LinkedIn or whatever. And also make certain that you are proud of what is there. If it is a case where you don't currently have a digital footprint, then I would suggest that you start with LinkedIn. A lot of recruiters are on LinkedIn. If you do provide a decent LinkedIn profile, then half the work is actually cut for you, because recruiters are on LinkedIn every day looking for persons to fill those jobs. And I will tell you, I've secured a few jobs from LinkedIn myself. And there's probably not a year that goes by that at least not 1 or 2 recruiters don't reach out to me to ask me if I'm available, because they have a particular job and they want to know if I'm interested in it. So LinkedIn is a very good place to make certain. If you want to know how to do your LinkedIn profile and tips on that, I actually do have an article on the website www.livingloudonabudget.com. that will get you started on how to build up your LinkedIn profile. The fourth tip would be a risk taker. You may have your heart set on a specific role or a specific country, but at the point in time when you're looking, those roles or that country may not necessarily be available to you. If there are other opportunities that arise, you shouldn't necessarily say, this is not what I want and I'm not going to engage in it. You should be willing to take a risk, and also you should be willing to have more of an open mind. Many years ago, I was offered a role in Guernsey. The thing is, I had done one telephone interview with the company before they had said to me that they were interested in hiring me. I ended up doing a second interview 2 days later, and after that interview, they said to me, we are going to send you an offer. At the time, I barely knew how to find Guernsey on a map. I did a quick Google search, looked at it, and I was like, okay, it looks decent enough. It looks like a beautiful country. It looks like I can do that. And when I first looked at the idea of moving abroad or becoming an expat, I didn't necessarily have my heart set on a particular country. And that is also an opportunity for you to be able to see more things that you haven't seen, experience cultures that you haven't been able to experience. And I'll also say that it's also an opportunity for you to get your foot in the door. Now, there are countries out there where I know that there are more persons who are really interested in moving as an expat, or they really want to work in this particular country. But sometimes those jobs are not always available to you at the time, or sometimes it takes quite a few years before one become available. It doesn't necessarily mean that you should sit down and just wait because this is what you want. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to speak to many recruiters and also HR personnel, and I can tell you that they're more willing to take the risk on an individual who has lived outside of their country than one who has not. Because what it says to them is that this person knows how to be adaptable, this person knows how to be able to move out of their culture into another culture, and they know how to make it work. When you are coming from wherever you are coming from, companies are going to be spending a lot of money on you, whether it's in terms of relocation expenses, in terms of even the recruiter's fees, and they want to be certain that they have hired an individual who 6 months down the road wouldn't say, oh, you know what, I don't like this, I'm not going to stay, I want to leave. So be willing to take that risk and be a lot more open-minded in terms of where you would want to go, or even sometimes in terms of the specific role. Because sometimes in getting an expat job, the whole idea about it is to get your foot in the door. That leads to tip number 5. Be global minded. If you're seeking a job in another country, you're seeking a job halfway around the world, you're seeking a job or you're seeking a lifestyle that is far different from what you know, you want to make certain that you understand the type of environment that you're going into. You want to understand the culture. Make certain that you've done your research in terms of the cultures that you're going into, especially what makes the specific country that you're looking to relocate to unique, and to understand their cultural differences and to understand who they are as a people. There are a lot of persons who pride themselves on just knowing exactly what they know and nothing more. There are persons who don't want to learn about other things, and those are not necessarily the individuals who will thrive when they relocate. If it comes down to a company having to choose person A or person B, chances are the person that they're going to select based on personality. It may have absolutely nothing to do with your qualifications, your experience. It may come down to how you come over in the interviews. They will be able to tell whether or not you are someone who have life experiences, whether or not you understand the culture and the countries that you're looking to move in, whether you're someone who has hobbies. And I know that this may sound very frivolous, but I've sat in many companies where it came down to personality. And the reality of it is that if you're an individual who just live inside your box and you don't really have much life experience, then it's going to be much harder for you to be able to secure these type of jobs. So Easy way, you can start with YouTube, start with the internet, at least just broaden your horizon in terms of what you know and what you're willing to learn. Now, I'm not saying that you have to change your personality or who you are as a person, because authentic behavior will be able to get you through the door. But at the end of the day, you must have some level of personality. Be able to show this person or be able to show the interviewer, this is who I am as a person. And I am this type of way because I have this experience. I play XYZ sport. This is my type of hobby. And it doesn't have to be anything that whatever people are doing, but it must be able to be something that separates you from the rest. So I will say, work on life experiences, work on having a global mind, and work on yourself as in who you are as a person. Now, this is just an introductory of few tips of how you can go about landing a job abroad. I'm going to say that landing a job abroad is not an easy task, and sometimes it will come a lot easier for some persons than others. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they've done a whole lot more than you. It could be in terms of timing. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. But there are things that you can do to put yourself in a position to make certain that if the opportunity does come, that you are ready to take the opportunity and that you're doing the things that you will get noticed either by companies or by recruiters. So if you're ready to embark on your expat life, on a life abroad, then just tell me where you want to go. Tell me the type of job that you're looking to get, and good luck.